All right. Hello, everyone. Couple of things. I'm going to start with our Slack. I wanted to introduce you to that. It's pretty useful. Who's familiar with Slack here? Raise your hand. Pretty much everyone. So we operate a Slack. It's on Slock.it. We wanted to do Slock, but that didn't work. There's 3,500 people in there, so it's a pretty cool place to learn more about Ethereum. If you have questions about how to use Mist, the Ethereum wallet, there's guys here to answer you. And we obviously talk a lot about the project and about DAOs, if you're into that. So earlier you saw a picture of my dog. That's what was on the screen, if you were wondering. It's a Shar-Pei puppy. He's very nice. But anyway, enough of that. So Slock.it. The idea of Slock.it is to start it from, where are the business model if something's completely decentralized? That's a big question that always comes back. A lot of people wonder, well, if everything's decentralized, then surely there's no room to make any money, and therefore this has no interest to me. So we try to find places in certain verticals, whether it's M2M or the energy sector, where blockchain can actually bring cost reduction and also earn money for certain actors in the context of DAOs. So a lot of people think of the future as something like this. There's the typical virtual reality headset where humans enter the cyberspace and interact with digital entities. Now, we think it's going to be the other way around. Autonomous objects that run the Ethereum blockchain and interact within our scope, within our world. Now, those objects will be completely autonomous. They're objects that own themselves, and they may not be as sexy as VR headsets, but they are the intersection of pretty much everything we use in our digital society. So they're really the underpinning of everything we do on a daily basis in our digital world. What we're doing is marrying the physical and digital. We use the blockchain. You're familiar with that, I'm sure. That's the Ethereum blockchain. I tried to represent it the best I could. Smart contracts, they talk to each other, they contract with each other, they're fully autonomous. They're pieces of software that belong to themselves and themselves only if you program them as such. And so, because they live on the blockchain, they benefit from all the properties of the Ethereum network, namely immutability, meaning they cannot be changed after the fact. So if we both agree that we're going to work on a certain version of the code, that's what we're going to be working on going forward and nothing else. No one else can change it, not even Vitalik. It's corruption-proof by design and obviously resistant to collusion because it's based on a layer of cryptographic security, public-private key infrastructure, which forms the underpinning of the Ethereum network. And it has what I call zero downtime, but we'll get to that in a second. So what we're doing at Slock.it, we're intersecting the objects with the smart contracts. We're basically linking the unique ID of the contracts in the blockchain with physical objects in our world. And in practice, we're giving objects, physical objects, an identity, the capability to run code, and inherit all the properties of the blockchain, immutability, et cetera, et cetera. That's object vibrating because he's happy. These objects are fully autonomous. They own themselves. They can sell themselves. So let's take a practical example. We got Bob. Bob wants to rent a house, right? Typical Airbnb type use case. Grabs his cell phone. When he does so, he broadcasts his public ID, his public key, right? That's his Ethereum public key. And we know it's him because only him can sign messages with his public key because he owns the private key, right? And no one else. And that's kind of neat because that means no login necessary on the Ethereum network, no registration on the Ethereum network, just download the app and go. So he finds the house of his dreams, he loves it, and his phone is going to contact the smart contract that represents the door itself in the blockchain, and it's going to send it money to rent it, pretty much. So if we were to look into the smart contract, which are, by the way, just pretty much fancy Excel spreadsheet with macros attached, we would find a line. In the line, there would be the public ID of this gentleman, the dates at which he's renting this apartment, and he paid $40 to rent that apartment, right? Simple as that. That's his public ID and so on. So, in effect, what we've done is we've created a contract between a human and a door, an object. And that's pretty cool. That means there's no third parties to levy excessive fees, like Airbnb takes 20%. Sorry if anybody works for Airbnb in the room. There's no room for censorship. that room could be in North Korea, and the person renting it could be in this very room, right? Simple as that. And there's no room for lack of service. So it's a universal service. It's global, right? You can use this service anywhere. If you don't have PayPal, that's okay. If Airbnb doesn't deserve your area, that's okay too. It will still work. That's the beauty of the blockchain. So once the user arrives at the door, he basically knocks on the door virtually using his cell phone, and that talks to a little chip that's embedded in the door lock to be specific, and it broadcasts its ID. So the door talks to the blockchain, connects to the contract that represents itself, and checks that there is indeed a row in there that represents this public ID that only the person holding the phone can possibly have signed a transaction with, and that it's indeed between those two dates, and that the person indeed paid the $40 required to get in. That's about it. It's a match, and the door opens, the user gets in, and is really happy.
What does the door do with $40?
What does the door do with the $40? That's a very good question. So what we're building is really, machines that hold money. Now, in this case, it would hold it alongside with a deposit. And if the user returns the apartment in the same state that he found it, then the cost of the rental will be subtracted from the deposit, and the balance will be sent to the person who owns the apartment, right? But it would be kind of cool if you could have a rich door, too. I mean, I personally think it would be kind of neat to have rich computers that can't spend the money on stupid stuff. Anyway, that's what we're doing at Slock.it. So we're building real physical objects, like this door in question. It works, it's a real door, it's all functioning. Because we believe that transacting with autonomous machine is going to soon become the new normal. And why wouldn't it? When we looked initially at these smart contracts, we saw it was possible to represent a simple door, but we could also represent the cleaning service in there. That could be automatically notified, not through some type of complex workflow that's fragile and may not work, but through notification via the blockchain by listening to the blockchain, which is sure and immutable. And so, for example, the cleaning service could go and check if the apartment has indeed been left in the condition it was received. We could also connect to the utility system and check if the user used X amount of electricity, so the user only pay for what they used. And we could also connect to an insurance service so that the person renting the apartment would only pay for the insurance for the duration that the apartment was rented for. And all of that, we're working with existing partners. So Electron, of course, that you discovered earlier on for the electricity side of things, and SafeShare for the insurance side of things. And the only thing we're needing is a cleaning service. So if anyone knows one, you can come and see me at the end. Other things we're working on, we're building this thing. It's called the Ethereum Computer. We're building it with Samsung and Canonical. Canonicals are the maker of the operating system called Ubuntu. And they have a specific version of Ubuntu called Ubuntu Core that's really well adapted to the Internet of Things and Internet of Objects. So that's what we're building. It's a piece of kit that allows pretty much people to share anything in their home, like those locks we just saw, without having to need the lock to run the blockchain itself. And the reason for that is because not every, obviously, provider of smart locks out there is easily accessible. Not everyone will want to embed that technology, and we simply don't have the resource to connect with everyone. So what we do is we have this sort of proxy that brokers transaction between the blockchain and the smart object that already exist. Pretty much anything that's Zigbee or Z-Wave compatible, we support. So that's a little prototype you can check out on our website. Because we were building this Ubuntu Core-based system, we had to put Ethereum on Ubuntu Core, obviously. So Lefteris Karapetsas built the framework for Ubuntu Core, meaning that Ethereum can run on just about anything you see on the screen, including that little dancing robot that one day will enforce smart contract with an automated gun or something. So we got drones, that's stuff that's not scary at all. A spider thing. 3D printers, quite useful, something that looks a bit like a bomb, and DSLAMs that are also quite useful. But Ethereum runs on all this now. I mean, it's a reality. It's not in the future. It runs. You can download it, run it. If you have a piece of kit that's running Ubuntu Core, you just download the framework and it's done. Okay, that's another thing we're working on. It's a fully automated drone with a project called Venko. It's a car drone. It drives itself. Obviously, it's fully autonomous. It's real. And it's basically because we believe that the logical conclusion of the self-driving car is going to be the self-renting car. And these guys have this really cool drone that rents itself, and it costs the price of a small sedan, right? I mean, to buy 3 or 4 of these. So you could buy 3 or 4 of these, put them in your street, and they go and rent themselves and earn money on your behalf. They're pretty modular, so if they break, you can just change the part quite easily. And they're cheap, and they're real. And we encourage you to go and check out their website. It's venco.com. And they have the prototypes running already, and we're integrating Ethereum on that. What else? You saw that. That's the RWE charging station. I have a little better version where Simon, the star of the charging station, is proving that it works. The light's going to go off. There you go. And he's very happy. Yeah, that was shot at home. It's a home video. You know, so we work on that. Karsten has mentioned induction charging for vehicles at traffic light. Again, this is a really cool use case. By the way, it can't be done outside the scope of the blockchain. If you didn't have a blockchain, each car would have to dial a number to go and verify if the transaction is valid, execute the payment. It costs a lot in terms of percentage to execute the payment. Here you can use microtransaction using various techniques and Ethereum and Whisper, for example. So that's a really cool use case of blockchain technology. Also, why would, by the way, any of those corporates want to use this technology, right? It's because they're really nice. No, it's because it's cheaper for them. It reduces their operational cost by simplifying their billing. I used to work for Visa, and we used to do loyalty programs on a lot of big supermarkets. And so I wanted to bring a diagram that looks a bit like this, which was the purchase process for any given shampoo item in your local supermarket. Now, I couldn't bring it. Get in trouble, so I got the drug for supply chain in Zambia instead. But it looks the exact same, and we learned to love it. But it's way complicated. It costs a fortune. All these boxes is one integrator after the next that's charging thousands of pounds or hundreds of thousands of pounds to this corporate for a little SQL database that falls down every 10 seconds, and everybody blames each other. So simplified billing, just direct from user to the actual corporate. They like that. It's cheaper for them. It's more solid. The other reason is fraud-proof accounting. They stay one step ahead from the regulators and don't get in trouble with the law. And also, they guarantee they don't end up with cheeky people calling, the DBAs at midnight and say, hey, drop those 2 tables from the database because, we messed up somewhere. It's no longer possible. Immutability is there to prevent it. So that's another advantage. Getting rid of centralized servers, that's the whole point of the Ethereum Computer, so to speak, the worldwide computer that Gavin Wood describes. It's for all of us to make use of those resources on the blockchain and only pay for what we use. So get rid of the centralized server also saves cost. And really it comes down to this, you got your point of sale, your billing, your partner channels, your accounting, your finance, your statistical analysis, all synchronizing around this blockchain state, and it creates this sort of convergence around the single database that's immutable and never falls down, zero downtime. That's huge. One thing that also we work on that I know people wanted me to talk about tonight is DAOs. Anybody knows what DAOs are? Raise your hand. Most people, that's amazing. So they're autonomous companies. They have their bylaws encoded into the blockchain. What we're doing is we've built this framework that allows anyone to build a DAO that's fair, 100% decentralized. There's no single point of control. We've made all that code available on GitHub with a white paper. If you want to go and bootstrap your own DAO, you can. We encourage you to do so. We got channels on our Slack to help you out with this stuff. The way it works is a bit blurry. So somebody can submit a proposal to the DAO, and the DAO then review this proposal, and they vote. And they're basically represented by DAO token holders, right? They're not like shares, but kind of. And they allow you to vote on where the DAO is going to spend its funds. If the DAO agrees on the development of something, it then goes into development with a service provider that delivers on this product, and then the product earns revenue for the DAO. So it creates this nice virtuous cycles where everybody benefits from the process. And we think it's fair, honest, and it works anywhere in the world. So, if you're stuck with red tape somewhere in Kenya, well, not anymore. You can build your own company, have your own bylaws, have your own shareholders anywhere in the world without being restricted by local legislations. One thing that we're trying to do now is we're trying to see how the Ethereum computer could fit into this. So all the objects that it's going to broker transaction with on the blockchain could actually end up sending part of their revenue back to the DAO. So if there was an appropriate DAO out there, we'd submit a proposal to the DAO to build this product, would then pay the DAO back. And that's pretty much how it works. So the DAO orders products from a service provider, which then builds products that can be used or charged for by the DAO. That's about it. I'm pretty much out of time, so if you have questions, don't hesitate. Thank you.
Amazing. That was a rapid tour of the Slock.it world, according to Stephan. Let's take some questions. First one came over here.
Hi, Robert Olsen, Seeding Cryptobia podcast. When are you doing your DAO?
So the DAO does itself, basically.
No, your one.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We submit a proposal to a suitable DAO. Right now, we haven't seen one out there that's suitable for our needs, but we're seeing efforts from the community on our Slack to form hubs and various websites like We the DAO or DAOhub.org, where they work together to put together some type of self-governance. And then from there, they can instantiate the DAO to which we'll submit a proposal. We ourselves do not create the DAO, just like you separate, you want to separate the legislative and the executive and the government, so to speak.
So you're not doing it like a crowd sale?
We're not doing a crowd sale now.
No. 23rd of March.
Right now.
Sorry?
Are you waiting for it to happen? Are you waiting for this somebody to?
Yeah, pretty much. Just like 3 days ago, we made the code available that was audited by a company called Deja Vu, which is the same company that audited the Ethereum code. And that stuff is, they're very good at what they do. They didn't find any bugs, minor, a tiny little discrepancy, which I've explained in the blog post. I mean, it's complicated, but it's minor. And so we're ready to go, really. We're just waiting for the community to self-organize around building this thing. Because it's not about building the Ethereum computer, that's it, let's go home. It's about, what else could they do? They could sponsor other projects that, for example, help the development of the Ethereum protocol itself, like the Mist browser or Whisper or something else, or find things that are for profit. I mean, it's a for-profit DAO. I imagine they'll go after projects that make them money. It could be a DAO that invests into other DAOs. It's a little bit meta. But the idea is to have this big sort of self-organized blockchain program that goes and takes portions of potential investment into various things.
Okay, back here.
Hi there. Thanks for a very good presentation. Most of the things that you showed now seems to be depending on the Ethereum blockchain to scale properly. Mm-hmm. What are you doing to make sure that your business aren't a failure because you're standing there without the blockchain that can handle your requirements? Yeah,
so blockchain scalability and blockchain privacy, that's the two big issues with blockchains today, Ethereum included, of course. So there's several initiatives around that. The switch to proof of stake is going to definitely help with scalability a little bit. But then sharding, in particular on Ethereum 2.0, will definitely help. Now, we're shuffling where the puck will be, not where it is. The Ethereum Computer, that's 2017. By then, we expect that there'll be enough scalability in the network to support our endeavors. And then a year later, same thing. A bit like today, Bitcoin isn't useless because it can only do 7 transactions per second. It's still very useful for a lot of people. And I don't even think it hit the maximum yet. So same thing for the Ethereum network. We think it's gonna scale, but slowly, and so will our business.
Question on this side of the room.
When you were talking about renting the room, you said that the deposit's returned upon the kind of condition being adequate.
Yeah.
How do you kind of solve the issue of technical information being fed back into the network? Because that's a very subjective opinion, whether or not somebody returns the condition of a flat and as it was when they arrived.
Yeah, absolutely it is. So there's 2 ways around this. The first one is insurance, and that works exactly like in the existing world, so to speak, but with SafeShare, it's done on an ad hoc basis and it's backed by the blockchain. Or quite simply, you ask the cleaning service to go and be witness to the state of the apartment, so they become a bit of a ad hoc verifier of those claims, so to speak. And I think we're going to see more and more creation of jobs actually that are done on an ad hoc basis, where people don't work for any particular employer, they just answer queries from potential DAOs out there. In fact, that's what we're trying to do with that framework. Version 1.0 is not gamified, but version 2.0 of our DAO framework, we're trying to make it so the DAO can set bounties so other people can go and resolve the issues for it, a bit like a reverse Amazon Mechanical Turk, if you will.
Stephan, back over here, please.
Sorry, yeah.
Hi, Stephan. You mentioned the possibility for DAOs to be created anywhere in the world. What kind of legal framework would they be created? And
I was
operate
fearing
over?
that question. We're not lawyers. We can't provide legal advice, just like with Ethereum. When I was standing on stage, I was like, nah, and I was talking about Ethereum, and people were saying, well, you know, do I want to buy some Ether during the pre-sale? Is that good? Is that bad in my jurisdiction? The answer is, I don't know. You need to check with your jurisdiction. Most jurisdictions, I think, are starting to look into this stuff pretty seriously. 2 weeks ago, I was in France at the National Assembly. It was a pretty big deal. They had deputies and things like that. And they knew about DAOs. They saw the potential for the technology. And I hope that, 20 years ago, I left France because they were a bit backwards when it came to internet technology. They had this Minitel, so I left for the States and all that, and I never came back, never paid my tax there. And I was explaining to these guys, look, if you only had a nice framework for things like DAOs or even just blockchain to exist, so that when you go create a bank account, they don't look at you like you're a drug dealer because you're using Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? I'd go back to France and I'd pay my tax there. And if the Ethereum Computer as a product receives, say, 10 million USD, corporate tax in France is what, 28%? That's a nice check for 2.8. If I was the government, I'd really start thinking about that, or they're going to suffer another brain drain to jurisdictions that are friendly to DAOs.
Okay, one more question over here.
Yes, sir. There's one. Two. Yeah. Hey, Victor.
So, how far do you think we actually are from pizza delivery drone systems?
From
or drug delivery to remote places.
Did you say drug delivery to systems?
Medicine now.
Medicine delivery system.
Yeah.
Autonomous medicine delivery mechanism.
Or pizza delivery to kind of this Grovey ridge that up in the woods where I really like to code.
Yeah.
So can I?
Yeah.
How far are we from that, do you think?
The problem is, when you look at the flying drone issue, is obviously in the US FAA regulations and things of that nature, and liability potentially for whoever operates the service, that if they start having this stream of drones buzzing overhead, you end up in a South Park type situation where you have police drones that chase regular drones and so on. And so, unfortunately, you're limited by the physical world there. But I think from a technical point of view, there was a project that demoed drones that were taking off and landing, and it was all based on the Ethereum network. So I think from a tech point of view, we're almost there, because the navigation isn't handled by the Ethereum network. It's just the departure and the okay to depart, and then the where are you going, where's the final destination. The rest is handled by systems we already understand, like GPS navigation and stuff like that. I don't think we're very far, but the world has yet to adapt to, the crypto world that we're creating. All those young whippersnapper in this room. And yes, sir.
Hi, I have a question about, I'm working in an insurance company, so I'm interested in one of the player. You mentioned about share something which provides a
safe share, yeah.
Safe share. And part of the reason I was interested in Ethereum is back in March, there's a news in CTAM that there's a first ever blockchain-based insurance for sharing economy, which was done against a company called Broomy, which does office sharing.
Yeah, Broomy, yeah.
Yeah, and when I saw it, I thought, oh, it must be Ethereum, but I think it's something else. I just wonder if they consider as a kind of the tendering,
I see what you mean.
Ethereum or...
Yeah, so Vroomi is a product of SafeShare. I think that's what you're referring to. But no, it's not using Ethereum. It's an insurance product from SafeShare, where the same people who intend to provide insurance on the Slock.it network for us.
I wonder if they consider using Ethereum rather than using their...
If Vroomi considered using Ethereum, I don't know.
Next question. Any more questions? Last question.
Next question.
I hear people referring to the to DAOs as DAOs, and some people occasionally as DAOs. What's the correct term, DAO or DAO?
I don't know. Whatever works, man. It's
And on that note, thank you very much, Stephan.